Today is Thursday, September 14th. Welcome, everybody. John Aravosis here with the Aravosis Report, here to talk to you about the latest news from the war in Ukraine. Let me get TikTok rolling here on my iPad and introduce yourself. Say where you are from. Our usual beginning. TikTok. All right. Boom. Oops. Oop. Light reflecting on my screen. I think it'll be okay. I'm going to wipe my screen. Hey, everybody. Start getting my TikTok screen cleaned. Ukraine destroys Russian sub. They did, but I'm going to change the name of that. Anyway, how folks doing? We have a light news day today, I would say. It's not a good news, though, but actually, a lot of good stories. Nothing really bad, but not a ton of news. Hang on. Ukraine war update. I'm starting TikTok as I'm talking to you guys, multitasking. Hey, Radoslav. Ukraine war update. Boom. There we go. Go live. Excellent. Excellent. Woo. All right. Mirror. Boom. Excellent. Hey, guys. How are we doing today? Hi from New York. Solak. Oh, New Hampshire, even more so. What else is going on, guys? Welcome. John Aravosis here. Hey, Annie in Sweden. As always, we're going to take about 2 minutes to wait for folks to arrive, and then I'll start the show. But we sort of give TikTok and YouTubers a chance to get here first. A little bit of tea in my mug that I got when I lived in New York. I don't know if it's going to last long. They aren't the best mugs. Not the best quality mugs, but I love my New York mug. Anyway, I like living in New York. Anyway, woo. Oh, man. Yeah, like I said, not too busy of a day today. Thank you, Tomcat and Carol, for the gifts on TikTok. Lovely. Oh boy, guys. Bernard in the UK, Ava with a lovely gift. Victoria in Australia, or Victoria, Australia. I've not heard of Victoria. I'm trying to remember if I've heard of Victoria in Australia. Maybe I have. Am I being crazy? Thank you, Karuna and Big Hawk and Jetta. Victoria. I'm thinking of Victoria in Canada, right? Isn't there Victoria, Canada? Thanks, Arifa and LWD. I think that's the Victoria I'm thinking of. Yeah. Maybe. Dark Irish. I will get to yours as soon as we start. Excellent. Thank you for that. Oh, my mic. This is one of those times again where I turned my TikTok mic on and then didn't actually put it on my body. How's that, TikTok? Is that any better? Oh, it's you get scatterbrained. What can you do? Hey, Sweden and Canada. Much better. It should be much better. My mic was like sitting behind my iPad. All right, guys, I'm going to get rolling. Welcome all. I am John Aravosis here with my cup of tea, my cup of iced tea, coming to you live from Washington, D.C. to talk to you about the latest news from the war in Ukraine. As I was saying, pretty good news day today. I don't think I've got anything. I got to look. I don't think I've got anything. No. Well, little negativity, but not too bad, actually. Good stuff for Ukraine. As always, I will start the show by going through the news. I go through the stories that I think are relevant, and then second half of the show, take your guys' questions. And I got, not intentionally for Ukraine, but I got flowers today at the grocery store nearby. Thank you, Crazy Cat. They had sunflowers on sale for like 5 sunflowers for $5. I was like, woo woo. And my very pretty little vase I got in France 20 years ago that I never used enough. It's a really pretty Lalique vase, and my mom was like, use your vase. So I'm using my vase. Thank you, Tarmo. Thanks, guys. So let me start with the news. Thank you, Adventures. And then we'll do questions. As always, if you guys have a super chat question on YouTube, I will always get to that immediately. Super stickers, I will do a shout out. And for you guys on TikTok, whenever you do the fun gifts that throw up, hopefully they don't throw up. When you do the fun gifts that show up on the screen, that might be a nicer way to put it. I will do a shout out. So thank you if I see it. And usually I see them. So thank you for that. Like Adam and LWD, they're doing the duck, Aflac. All right, guys. So today's news actually, let me start first. Day 568 of Putin's 3-day special military operation. I always start the show this way because I think it's important to remind ourselves that this war was supposed to last 3 days, and it didn't last 3 days. It's lasted 568 days. That is a victory right there. It's not enough of a victory, right? Ukraine's got to do better. I mean, obviously it's not Ukraine's fault, but we hope they do better. We hope we can help them do better. Thank you, Jess, for that. But nonetheless, this is a pretty big victory versus a country like Russia. Russia should have won this war in 3 days. They didn't. Let me start first with a question from Dark Irish. Dark Irish bought a super chat question. Those are the questions on YouTube that people pay for as a gift to support my work, which I very much appreciate, and I always will therefore answer them first, so I shall. Question about an early report from last year. Since Ukraine is advancing, is the old lady with the sunflower seeds back in operation and advancing behind them? That is a great story. You guys may remember this. Anybody who's new here may not. But there was a wonderful story at the beginning of the war. And there was video and audio of a Ukrainian like grandma type, right? You know, kind of, it's winter because this is February, and she's bundled up, the scarf, the whole thing. And she's talking to a Russian soldier who had invaded her town in northern Ukraine. And she's clearly lecturing him, right? And she's lecturing him. And they did it, well, a babushka in Russian, and then Ukrainian. I forget the name in Ukrainian. You guys can tell me what the grandma is in Ukrainian. She's lecturing this Russian soldier, the invader. And she's telling him things like, you know, you invaded my country, get out. What are you doing here? And he's, thank you, Adam. And he's kind of, you know, politely correcting her and going, ma'am, please move on. Please move on. And she, at some point, he says something like, I forget the exact, I should have pulled up the transcript for you guys. Something to the effect of, you know, I don't want any trouble or something weird like that. And I'm paraphrasing, but more or less. Thank you, Marcy. And she goes, trouble? You just invaded my effing country. What do you mean you don't want trouble? And she starts telling him, she goes, here's some seeds. Here's some sunflower seeds. And he's kind of like, I don't want to choose. No, take these sunflower seeds because when your body lays down, sunflowers will grow in its place. Basically giving you the seeds so that when my soldiers in Ukraine kill you, at least your body will serve some good as fertilizer for the sunflowers, which are the Ukrainian national flower. I mean, it was amazing. And the thing is, it's audio. Like you can hear the audio. I mean, it's real. Really just wild story. So yes, thank you for the memory lane, Dark Irish. I had forgotten, not forgotten about her, but she hadn't really entered my mind in a long time. That was a great one. Another good story over the last 24 hours, Ukraine destroyed an S-400 Triumph surface-to-air missile complex near Yevpatoria in occupied Ukraine. Thank you, Carol. Ukraine, you guys will recall. Thank you, Irina, for the sunflowers. Ukraine, Crimea, you will recall, is the peninsula hanging down in the south. This is the one that Putin invaded and stole in 2014. The Ukrainians attacked last night. I'm trying to remember, I believe this time they used drones and the Neptune cruise missiles that they developed themselves, attacked the missile complex. They certainly caused serious damage because there was satellite video, footage out today showing the damage, which is great. This comes on the heels of yesterday's attack in Sevastopol, again in southern Crimea, when the Ukrainians hit a Russian landing craft, a military boat that was destroyed, a Russian submarine that was severely damaged. People do not think it's going to be, yep, there is glare on the screen because the sun on TikTok is being, they're a little bit better. That might be a little better. The sun's coming in and it's a very pretty day, but it's kind of glaring a little bit today on TikTok. I apologize, but nice day in DC. So yesterday in Crimea, the Ukrainians take out a landing ship. The Ukrainians take out a Russian submarine. They possibly do damage to 2 additional ships. They do serious damage to Russia's dry dock, which is the area that the Russians use to basically fix other boats, right? So this is great. So Ukrainians have ruined the ability of Russians to repair their ships. Then today, let me look here really quick. A little bit more detail. So today's attack that was on the radar system in Crimea, first the Ukrainians used drones to disable the Russian radar antennas so they wouldn't detect what came next, which were the Neptune cruise missiles hitting the S-400. Very good. The other thing is Ukraine says they also hit 2 more Russian ships today. Looks like they were smaller scout ships or something like that. I saw a picture of one of them stationed in the southwestern part of the Black Sea, which again would be off of Crimea. Ukraine is clearly taking on Crimea. They are clearly, I'm not sure. I was going to say trying to soften it up. They're clearly trying to soften it up. This is something I talked about yesterday and the day before by going after radar and that kind of stuff. The Ukrainians are clearly making it easier to attack in the future. They are also trying to basically cause psychological damage to Putin because Crimea is so important to him. I mean, Putin loses Crimea and people think Putin's going to get overthrown if he loses Crimea, right? So they're also just trying to do that. They're trying to constantly, sort of needle prick Putin again and again and again just to piss him off and make him look weak. But having said that, all of these attacks are significant in the cumulative nature in terms of strategically because the Ukrainians are knocking out radar. And they keep repeatedly knocking out radar and knocking out ships the Russians would use. For example, actually, here's a point too. I forgot to mention this. I was reading an article last night or this morning talking about, for example, the landing ship that the Ukrainians took out, right? Which was one of the other Russian ships that got destroyed yesterday. Well, that ship, what was it saying? The article, that ship would be used. I'm trying to remember. All of this was talking about how the Ukrainians were going after Russian logistics. And this was like taking some of the logistics operations out, and the Ukraine was going to therefore get the radar so they could basically, in the end, separate Crimea from the rest of the Russian occupied territories. Any case, very cool though. Okay, interesting. So Give Me Food says, not just knocking out a radar, but the S-400, even by U.S. standards, that is a very good anti-aircraft system. Okay, that's good to know then. That's why people have been basically crowing over it today, because all the folks I read have been saying how significant it was, but nobody explained that. That's good. Thank you. Give Me Food. Let's see what else we got here. President Biden is expected to meet with Zelensky next week in Washington. Zelensky is going to be going to New York City for the UN General Assembly meeting. That's the big meeting once a year when most heads of state show up in New York. Zelensky will be going. He will be speaking to the General Assembly. He will also be meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. Zelensky will then, thank you, John S. for the TikTok gift. Zelensky will then be going to Washington, where he will meet Biden at the White House, and just announced today he will also be doing visits to the Congress, which is a great idea. Thank you, Scott, for the TikTok gift, because any kind of personal connection Zelensky can keep building with Congress is important. He needs them. Thank you, Heine. In our system of government, Congress is the body that appropriates the money. It's the president who then can sort of dole it out little bits here and there and stuff, but Congress has to actually give the overall pot of money. Thank you, Poppy, and say, yes, here's another 20 billion. Here's another whatever it is. Thank you, Scott, as well. So anyway, very important for Zelensky to go and basically schmooze Congress. BBC. So the BBC had a really troubling story out today. Evie's here. I think Evie always asks me, should I be worried? Or Evie, in this case, a little bit. So really weird story from the BBC. So quick sip of water and we'll talk about it. So we knew some of the story, okay? Some of the story broke a few months ago, but basically what the BBC broke today were more details. There was a confrontation between Russian fighters and a British surveillance plane that had 30 British troops on board last September. The British surveillance plane was flying near or over the Black Sea, basically keeping an eye on what the Russians were doing. Thank you, Life, for the heart there. And what we now know from the BBC that talked to 3 defense officials, one of the Russian fighters did not accidentally fire at the Brits. One of the Russian fighters opened fire at the Brits on purpose. Okay. They got the whole communications. The Russian fighter talks to the ground operators. And the ground operators say, I don't know if I've got this in my notes or not. I didn't. I'm just doing this wrong. I'm doing this off the cuff because I remember the details. The ground operators give him some response like, you've got the target or something like that, right? And it's this weird response that isn't clear what they mean. Do they mean, yes, you can see the target. Yes, that is the target. Or you've got the target, meaning get the target, take it out, blow it up, right? Well, this Russian fighter, thank you, Heine, fighter pilot assumes that he is being told to blow up. I mean, this is insane. He is assumed to blow up the British military surveillance plane that has 30 British service members on board. Okay. He fires at the plane. The missile does not lock on the Brits and it doesn't hit. Now, it did not malfunction, they're saying. It did not malfunction, it just didn't hit. The hope is, thank you, Kunkaranga, is that the thought is that the Brits may have been able to jam the missile so that it didn't hit the British plane. Had it hit the plane, that would have been 30 men and women dead, British soldiers. His wingman, so the other Russian fighter pilot that is next to him in another plane, and this is all on recording. We've got the British intelligence has the recording, or Americans maybe too. The other Russian pilot flips out and starts screaming profanities at this pilot, basically saying, what the F are you doing? You're firing at a British military plane? Are you crazy? Well, this pilot then, the bad guy, after he's yelled at by this guy saying, I'm listening. Thank you, Charles. He's telling him, I'm listening. They did not give you permission. He fires again at the Brits. This time, the missile drops to the ground. It falls off the wing and drops to the ground. Now, possibly this was a malfunction. Thank you, Succeed. Possibly this was that maybe the second he fired attack, and that's why the missile went dead. What the experts are saying is this shows just how unprofessional the Russian military is, because among NATO countries, you apparently have very specific language you would use to indicate that you should fire at the target. The Russians do not. Or the Russians, is my connection on TikTok is being evil today. 1 second, guys. I'm in the middle of my story. TikTok, TikTok was giving me there we go. TikTok was giving me a warning that the connection dropped. Okay, yeah, it was saying the connection dropped. I don't know why it's being so bad today. All right, sorry about that, TikTokers. Thank you. Glad you're still here. Thank you, Mark. So I was saying that the defense experts are saying that the Russian Air Force is so unprofessional that unlike NATO, where NATO, there is specific language. Thank you, Lee Shaw. There is specific language that you are given. Actually, Chris QT is saying we do very specific language. Exactly. There is very specific language with NATO of what you tell the pilot to indicate that the pilot should open fire, that you're giving him permission. With the Russians, it seems that there's just bull. I mean, they just say whatever they want to say. And in this case, the pilot thought he said attack, and the other pilot said, no, he didn't, right? Really scary. Apparently, the Brits at the time wanted to de-escalate. They didn't want to make a big deal out of it, partially because they didn't want to reveal their intelligence operations. So I guess they didn't want to say what they were doing. I don't know. I mean, which is a little weird to me, because the Russians already knew you were there. The Russians knew they fired at you. So why would you be giving any classified information by saying, yeah, we were there and the Russians tried to kill us, right? Because the Russians already know they were there and they tried to kill you. In any case, the other issue is that the Brits apparently did not want to cause a greater escalation with Russia. So they kept it hush-hush. Now, this bothers me a little. No one wants war with Russia, okay? But one of the ways you avoid war with Russia is by preparing yourself for war with Russia. Russia has to know that if hostilities break out or if they cross a line, we will go to war, right? I mean, they just have to know that. That ends up being a deterrent to them doing anything stupid. If the Russians literally tried to kill 30 British crew members, okay? 30 members of the British military. Thank you, Dawn. That deserves some kind of response. I mean, it's really not enough. This was last September. It's really not enough to say, well, one guy misunderstood, but I mean, that's a really big deal, guys. I don't know. What worries me is this fits into that larger messaging we've been talking about, that Putin sees that every time he crosses a red line, even if a lot of the red lines are by accident, right? His crewmen, well, it wasn't an accident, of course. The Russian pilot literally tried to blow up 30 British military officers or military men. The Russians attacked Romania 3 times, went negligently, recklessly at the very least. They were warned that their attacks on Ukraine that were right across the river from Romania were getting very close to hitting NATO. The Russians didn't care. I think you've got to make them pay a price when they do. And you know what, too? You've got to make them pay a price. But you know what? They should have paid a price with the world as well. They should have paid a price with the world as well, right? The world should know that the Russians almost started World War III. Now, granted, I could see maybe the Brits, maybe the Americans were worried that if the story gets out there, the bad guys, right? The Elon Musks, all the kind of pro-Putin apologists would use the story to maybe hurt Ukraine. I don't know. Thank you, Scott. But it really ticks me off. All right, end of that story. So let me give you guys, I did this yesterday. I'm going to show you again really quick. We've got some really cool auction items that I've got up now. Actually, a new auction item up. We do auctions over on Discord. I've got a Discord community where you guys can go and we talk about the news all day long. We talk about Ukraine a lot, but there's Trump. There's a lot of other issues as well. And it's at discord.aravosis.com. And one of the things we do there to benefit Ukraine, but also to support my work, is we do auctions. I do auctions of really cool stuff I get from Ukraine. And the stuff that I auction off, 50% of the money we channel back to Ukraine with our humanitarian work. We've been doing a lot of work helping the military lately and humanitarian aid. And 50% goes to support my work because I do this full time. And this is literally my job. So I need income to come in. Thank you, M. Fuller and Mark Richards. I need income to come in so I can keep doing this because I pay my bills and I'm able to keep broadcasting. So please do keep the gifts coming. But I've got, let me show you, I'm going to show you, maybe not, I'm not going to show all of them. I will show you 3 of the best auction items I've got, including one that I just put up. So the one auction item I just put up moments ago, and the auction goes through next Wednesday, is another Ukrainian camouflage net, military camouflage net. This is the winter net, you can see, because it's white for snow. This is a real Ukrainian military camouflage net. We know because we have been raising money to make these. We've been working with a charity in Ukraine called Harkov Mir. They have been, with winter netting, exactly. They have been working with the Ukrainian military. The Ukrainian military gives them the specs, tells them where to get the material, and they go and buy it. We have been helping them buy the material. And they made us a few nets to basically thank us for the work that we've been doing here with the news, and so that we could auction them off to, again, help the military more and to help my work more. So that net is around 9 feet by 2 feet, 3 meters by 2/3 of a meter, I think. Very cool. It's the winter net that covers, that basically looks like snow. So that's for auction over in the Discord. Second auction item is a very cool piece. Can I get some sun? Oh, there we go. Some sunlight on it so you can see the color. This is a piece of a Russian Su-34 fighter. This was shot down. They believe it was shot down over Kharkiv or Bakhmut. A lot of the planes, they actually know which plane it is. This one, there were 2 conflicting stories. So they know it was Eastern Ukraine. They think it was Bakhmut or Kharkiv, and they believe it was shot down December 2nd of last year. It's got some weight to it. This one's got some weight to it. It's not as light as some of the other pieces we were holding. Now, it could be because of this piece. It's got I like the color on it especially, but it's got this sort of cover piece, which is the one you're looking at here. And then it's attached to this skinny long piece. My suspicion is the skinny long piece is heavy and the thin piece is very light, but they're really cool. You can see the rivets and stuff. And because the rivets, I was, Worst Best Gamers, who's often with us, is a former military aviation guy, a mechanic, and he was telling me that you can tell when you look at the rivets, the fact that the rivets are not flat, right? Because there's like room there means it was an internal piece, is what he's taught me, right? Because you can see if the rivets are going to be sticking up, you're going to have some air hitting them and stuff. So in principle, this is meant to be an out. Anyway, very cool. Love this stuff. And the final one I'll show you, and this one's doing really well, actually. When I saw these, I was very excited to get these because I think they're cool, but typically I get stuff that I think is cool. And it doesn't, oh, there you are here today. I was just saying, you sort of taught me well. I'm assuming this piece, this is our former U.S. military aviation mechanic. And I was saying, I'm assuming that these rivets, because they're still sticking out a bit, that this would be an internal piece was my guess, right? Or the Russians just did a really bad job. But that was my guess. And the coloring too made me think maybe it was internal, but I wasn't sure. In any case, another very cool piece I'm auctioning off. I don't think I sent this one to you. I'm trying not to bother you with too many of these. Thank you for the hat, Heine. And the third thing that we're auctioning off actually 10 different things. But the third thing that we're auctioning off is the is this, which is really cool. It is a 30 millimeter shell casing from a gun on a Russian BMP-3. So it's a infantry fighting vehicle. And the Ukrainians took the shell, the empty shell that's been shot, and on one side they carved, thank you, Poppy. On one side they carved the Ukrainian trident. This is some Ukrainian artist did this. And the other side they carved an angel, which I think is just so cool. Isn't that neat? So it's an angel on one side, and then the other side is the trident. And I mean, you can see. And what's nice about this too is because it's a, it stands up. So it's like it's a nice piece for displaying, right? It is Russian. It is 30 millimeter shell. It is from a BMP-3 of the Russians. And I forgot, and it's from Bakhmut. It was from the battle in Bakhmut, which just adds to an extra kind of cool thing. Tall white candle is an excellent idea. I'm seeing Deb suggest. That's true. This would be cool with a candle in it too. It is a cool candle. You're right, because it's metal, so it's going to be fine. That's a good idea, actually. You're right. It would be really cool to have a candle be about halfway and flickering so you could see it shine out. Anyway, this is for auction as well over at the Discord. So go check it out, guys. I've got a lot of other stuff. I'll show you some of the other stuff the next day. But exactly, a battery tea light candle would be really pretty. Anyway, so there you go. Those are some of the auction items. Go over to Discord, discord.aravosis.com, and you can bid on the auction items. Thank you, your mommy, for the TikTok gift. Appreciate that. Now, Susan Crowdhamel says, I'm sorry, John, this has nothing to do with Ukraine, but Ruby needs 750 more to do the surgery. So yes, Susan was just noting, and thank you for the contribution, Susan. Susan was just noting that one of the other things we are doing is we're doing a fundraiser for our moderator, Amanda, who goes by the name Manda Bear. And Amanda's dog, Ruby, who is 5 years old, came down with a tumor. Thank you, Adventures. And it's a really, she showed me, it's horrific. It would be like in my mouth, the size of a golf ball. Horrific, this thing. The dog needs surgery, obviously. Surgery alone is $4,700. The vet would like to do a CT scan, but the CT scan, she's probably not going to be able to afford. And the vet said at least they can do the surgery without the CT, but the surgery is $4,700. Thank you, your mommy. And we have been raising money on GoFundMe for Deb to do that. Now, let me look really quick to make sure here. I'm going to make sure I've still got the link in my, I should still have it in my link tree. Yes. So one of the ways you guys can find the link, it's on Deb's GoFundMe. You can go to aravosis.com, which I'll show you guys here. You guys can see, it says right there, aravosis.com. You guys can just type in aravosis.com. And it's my link of links. It brings up this page. This is also the same page that'll come up if you go to my profile on TikTok and click the link. And the very top, you will see Help Save Ruby, the dog of moderator Mandy. See? Help Save Ruby, the very top entry. And you click it, and the GoFundMe comes up. Now, she's at 3,500 of the 4,700. She lowered it to 4,700 because that's just the surgery. Actually, she's got another, I think, 350 on PayPal. So that gets her to basically, she needs another 750 to pay for the surgery, guys. You all have been so amazing. Literally, you've put in $4,000. Absolutely amazing to help this poor dog. 5-year-old dog too, which, not that anybody wants to lose any dog, but 5 years old is an age when you don't just let a dog go if you can help it. You know what I mean? So anyway, if you can do that, that's wonderful. All right, guys. So yeah, please do go help. As I said, you can find the link in my bio on TikTok. Click it. First thing that will come up will be the GoFundMe link, and you guys can find it at aravosis.com. Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Joe Colella, for the gift there. All right. Sip of water, and we will continue with the news. All right. Very small counteroffensive update today. CNN report. Oh, actually, that's true. Actually, since I was giving the impromptu pitch on Ruby, I will show you briefly a Ruby picture or two because Amanda had sent me some really adorable photos. Hold on. Oh, God. And now I'm looking at my photos. I'm remembering another story I was going to tell you. So This is Ruby as a puppy. She's a shepherd mix, but this one cracks me up because this is when she got stuck in the couch. She got stuck in the pillows of the couch, which I think is just the most hilarious thing. Is that fabulous? Sasha did that once actually. When she was a puppy, she was 3 pounds and the couch was against the wall and she went between, but it was against a corner of the wall. So the wall was against the couch and behind the couch. Sasha walked between the couch and the wall and she walked all the way to the wall, but she was a puppy. She hadn't learned how to back up yet. So she got stuck and started whining and we had to move the couch to get her out. It was the funniest damn thing. Absolutely hilarious. The other thing I was going to tell you, one quick second here, is where was this? And this, I think, yes, earlier, I told you guys at the beginning of the show, one of the big story today is that the Ukrainians knocked out a Russian anti-aircraft battery in Crimea, the S-400, very advanced, big deal. Well, it is believed that the reason the Russians knew about this, the reason the Ukrainians knew about the battery was because this idiot put up a picture from his vacation. This is a Russian who was in Crimea, and he thought it was really cool that he found these Russian military things in Crimea when he was on vacation. So he posted a photo of himself with them. And it is believed that this is how the Ukrainians found where the thing was, because this idiot Russian tourist decided to pose with the Russian S-400 anti-missile batteries. That's a Russian who's going to be in serious trouble when he gets back home. Really funny. I mean, brilliant, actually, but really funny. What else we got here? Okay, yeah, quick counteroffensive news. Not a lot of news. But for the counteroffensive. But CNN reports that the Ukrainian military has seen some success on the front lines near Bakhmut, but fighting continues in the area, especially in the village of Andriivka. Now, Bakhmut, you will recall, is eastern Ukraine around here. This is the town, thank you, Laura Duke. This is the town that the Ukrainians or the Russians have been fighting in for like 11 months. The Russians finally took it 3-4 months ago now. It was actually Prigozhin's men with Wagner who ended up capturing Bakhmut. The Ukrainians have been trying to get it back. Well, there was news earlier today, but then the Ukrainians took it back, that Andriivka, which is one of the southern sort of suburbs of Bakhmut, the Ukrainians took the town. Then they came out with a correction and said, no, fighting's still going on. But it looks like the Ukrainians are moving forward, but again, very slowly. Ukrainian pilots have successfully tested the Swedish Gripen fighter jet. We know that the Swedes are discussing now whether to provide the fighters to Ukraine. I believe that we had also talked about a couple weeks ago, like a week ago or so, actually, we had talked about Sweden getting access to, basically giving access to the Ukrainians to do training on their fighter jets. And I was asking at the time, why would we be doing that? Right? Like, why give them training on something that isn't right? That is a plane they're not going to get. Well, the Swedes are now, sort of investigating whether they should give the planes to Ukraine. And apparently Ukrainian pilots have tested successfully, which is great. So excellent. I don't know, Cliff, the name. Vlad would know. There's a couple different ones that we raised money. There were like 3 different ones we raised money for. Vlad knows them. I don't know the names offhand. Wagner. So a quick Wagner update. Satellite images of a military base southeast of the Belarusian capital of Minsk appears to show the dismantling of tents in recent weeks. You will recall that after the coup attempt, Putin reached a deal with Prigozhin, and basically the Wagner guys were going to move to Belarus, or at least a lot of them were, and then obviously that fell through when Putin decided to murder Prigozhin, which is pretty much what we think happened and we're pretty sure happened. But now the military bases they were building for the Wagner fighters are now being dismantled. So I've got 2 more stories. Putin is worried about mobilization. This was interesting, actually. This came via Latvian-based news and investigation website Meduza, which is very good. And they say that Putin has pushed an urgent request to Russian pro-government media, asking that they refrain from coverage surrounding the anticipated mobilization where Putin is going to be basically calling up another couple 100,000 men. The report says the outlets concerned have been instructed to avoid even covering rumors about another mobilization because the people in the society are so freaked out about it, and Putin is therefore freaked out that people are going to freak out, which is very interesting. Anyway, but kind of good news, actually, that the Russians need more men and they're freaked out about getting more men, which is good. Finally, this was a great little story too. So this is the final story, but this one cracked me up. Hang on a second. So this is via Sky News. Kim Jong-un, who's the dictator of South Korea, who just met with Putin, his security reportedly spent several minutes disinfecting a chair intended for him during his meeting with Putin. This is according to Russian media. Russian newspaper Kommersant published video footage showing a North Korean official wearing white gloves spraying and wiping down a black chair. They sprayed the seat, handles, and legs, as well as the area around the chair, as a Kremlin bodyguard watched on. It came after Mr. Kim's security detail reportedly dismissed the first chair intended for the North Korean leader, meaning another identical one had to be found. Now, I'm going to guess that, it's like Queen Elizabeth when they tried to kill her by putting this, the original Queen Elizabeth, when they tried to put the stuff in her dress. This is kind of crazy. They basically were so afraid of an assassination plot that they made them change chairs and then went crazy wiping down the chair. I guess it's possible, though, because honestly, a lot of people would be interested in getting rid of Kim. The only problem is, I always tell you guys, one of the things you sort of learn with international affairs is be careful with things like coups and killing people and taking out leaders, because you don't know who's coming next. Unless you know who's coming next, it's very dangerous, because the next guy or gal could be even worse, right? Or frankly, like North Korea, you kill the guy and the country goes into war mode, right? You want to be careful when attempting things like that. In any case, all right, that is it for the news for tonight, guys. As always, we'll do question and answer now, but as always, if you can consider doing, obviously keep the gifts coming. Please keep the gifts coming on TikTok and YouTube. I will keep doing my shout outs. But also, if you would consider doing some memberships as well on Ko-fi, I've got the Ko-fi link in my bio on TikTok. Click the main link and you'll find Ko-fi in there. For you guys, it's at the bottom of the page. Thank you, Mundashi. You can also become monthly supporters on TikTok with the SNN. I always forget, folks, is it like a star at the bottom or something? The mods can tell you where that is. You guys can do it on YouTube as well. You'll notice the folks whose names are green, like Susan, Laka, some of the others, Greg, Ann, Carrie. Those are all the monthly supporters who are basically supporting me with a monthly contribution, which is fabulous. Oh, Amanda says we just made the surgery goal. Wow. You guys are amazing. You just donated enough money for Amanda to do the surgery for her dog who has cancer. Oh my God, that is so great. I've got to see who did that. All right, let me see. I'm going to do a quick shout out for you guys who gave. Janice just gave, Prunella just gave, Jack just gave, Anonymous gave a really nice contribution of $250 and didn't want credit. Kaylee gave $500. Jesus, Kaylee, thank you so much. And then Carrie Walker did earlier today, and then we already talked about you guys yesterday. Thank you for the glasses there. That is wonderful, guys. Thank you so much. No, this is amazing. Again, special place in my heart for dogs. But especially once you've had a dog, it's your pet. Not your pet, it's your family member. And the idea of not being able to pay because you can't afford it, it would just be, Thank you, Adventures and Bonnie. Oh, that's wonderful. Yay. I am so happy. This is great. Thank you so much. Seriously, guys, this is great. So much. I know. I told Manda, I said, let's do it, but I can't promise we'll get enough money. I have no idea. I underestimated you guys. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Adventure and Big Hawk and Timothy. This is great. Yay. See, I told you it's a good news day. Thank you, Bonnie. Good news day overall. Not too much bad news. A little bit, but not too bad. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Tula Kiwi. Yeah. Well, anyway, yay. Yay. Well, I will say this. Yeah, she's going to have more. Let's leave the GoFundMe up because she's got doctor visits and everything as well. This is not the last she's going to be paying for her poor dog. So anybody who wants to keep donating, please do. But that's great. At least now you can book the surgery. Yay. Yay. Thank you, Best Worst Gamers. Yeah, this is great. Yeah, I'm very happy. Thank you, guys. It was very cool. All right. So yeah, so let's do Q&A question, blah, blah, blah. Now that we've got happy news about helping the dog. Yay. Yay, yay. How will the offensive change with the wet season? More drone attacks. That's an interesting question. I mean, we know that the wet season bogs down everybody, right? I mean, it makes it hard for you to advance. You know, you yourselves walking through mud is horrific. Tanks, really bad. So it's going to make it hard to advance. Thank you, haha, funny. Now, one thing that Budanov had said, who's the Ukrainian intelligence chief, he had said that he didn't think the wet season was going to make as much of a difference because Ukraine, I believe he said, was doing sort of smaller operations, right? Like it wasn't a mass attack with lots of armament or whatever. Is the mic getting weird again? I probably like touched it and then something went wacky. So I don't know, but generally speaking, it's thought that it's going to make it much harder for the Ukrainians to proceed with big tanks and things like that. So, you know, okay, I'll send you more. Thanks, Best Worst. I mean, I feel bad bothering you, but I'm happy to because I love this stuff. As I told you, I'll do some more videos of the stuff I've got. Because it's fun for me too, and it's fun to like. It's also fun because for the auctions, Best Worst has been amazing because I've got a lot of different Russian fighter jet pieces that were shot down over Ukraine to auction off for folks, and he's been really nice about looking at them and kind of trying to help us figure out like what's what and all that kind of stuff. So more candle holders. Well, it's up for auction. You can bid right now over at discord.aravosis.com. You can bid. But we've got some really cool pieces. Do we know if North Korea has much they can give Russia? I think we probably know what North Korea has. The supposition is that North Korea is going to be giving Russia artillery, number one. Possibly some other armament stuff, but artillery is the number one thing. Yeah, that they're expected to give them. And the Ukrainians are saying that the North Koreans started giving the money 6 weeks ago, started giving the weapons 6 weeks ago to Ukraine. Now, they haven't produced any proof, but the Ukrainians tend to be truthful about this stuff. So if that's true, oh, that's nice. Cliff wrote a very nice note to you, Amanda. Clifford Norton over on YouTube. I just put it up. Well, Evie's asking, why should we be worried about the incident with the fighter jets? Which is basically, just to reiterate, last September, two Russian pilots intercept a British defense surveillance plane over, the Black Sea, international waters, totally legal. And the British fighter jets talks to the ground control, military ground control, and military ground control says something back to him like, you've got the target. He interprets this as meaning open fire on the British military jet. He opens fire, sends a missile. The missile should have taken out the plane. I mean, it would have blown up the plane, killed 30 British military personnel. Big deal. The missile misses. It doesn't get locked. They believe possibly it's because the Brits were able to, jam it. The guy's wingmen, so the other Russian pilot, basically two Russian pilots flying together, right? This one fires at the Brits. The other one starts yelling at him and going, what the F? I mean, swearing at him, what the hell are you doing? You just opened fire in the British. Are you insane? And telling him, you didn't get permission to fire. Like, I was listening. What are you doing? Well, the first guy, who already fired once, then fires again at the Brits. The missile just falls off the wing and drops to the ground, drops to the earth. It's not clear if it misfired or what happened. The Brits apparently have the whole conversations, and it was leaked to the BBC today. The reason I say be worried is because if Russia intentionally attacks a British fighter jet and kills 30 people, that gets it gets dangerous fast, first of all, because for starters, those Russian fighters are really lucky there weren't any NATO fighters nearby, because the second they launched at the Brits, they could have been under attack. I mean, those Russian fighters could have been blown out of the air. especially if those Russian fighters fired, or one of them did, and it blew up the British plane. If there were any NATO fighters in the area, I imagine they would have been okay to blow up the Russians. And now you got a problem, right? Because now you've got NATO planes blowing up and Russian planes blowing up. I mean, things could get out of control fast, right? And by the way, initially you might not know what happened, right? Because this idiot fired anyway. So the Russians on the ground aren't sure what happened, right? NATO wouldn't be sure what happened. All we would know is NATO and Russians are now firing at each other. How do you stop that once it starts? I mean, you can, but it's right. It's a risk of the fog of war. Nobody knows what actually happened. If more planes are in the area, they start a dogfight. Very scary. This is not a British fighter jet. It is a British surveillance plane. Yep. So it would be a big, I don't know what kind of plane it is, but it's a bigger plane that fits 30 people, it said. Yeah. Very scary. Very scary. What else we got, guys? Oh, good. Nice. Amanda's getting nicer. Oh, you're good. You're seeing the notes, Amanda. Send some F-22s. I'm sure they're hungry. I mean, it is an act of war. The thing is, now I will say this, my logical side here. Even in this case, Russia did not intend to start a war. A Russian pilot intended to start a war. Second of all, a Russian pilot, arguably, he's an idiot and they're very unprofessional, and the guys on the ground are very unprofessional, but he thought he was told by ground control to open fire on the Brits. So all he did was follow orders from his perspective. This wasn't a guy who wanted to start a war. I mean, this is devil's advocate, right? This wasn't a guy who wanted to start a war with Britain. He was ordered to start a war with Britain. The ground guys screwed up in giving the order because they made it so confusing that the pilot didn't know. So, I mean, if you look at it as NATO on the receiving end, this was a cluster F of the Russians. This was not the Russians getting together and going, ooh, let's start a war with NATO, right? It's the ground control being sloppy. It's the pilot being sloppy. It's everybody being sloppy and unprofessional, almost starting in a war. So that's a valid reason not to take it as if Russia literally attacked NATO. In other words, Putin said, I'm going to attack the Brits and blow up their plane. That's a big deal. This happened last September. Yep. So that's the deal. I wish you saw me in training classes at Langley. I've been dying. I so wanted to work for the CIA. Jeffrey's a troll who thinks he's like trolling me by saying he saw me at Langley. Never worked at the CIA. I wished I worked at the CIA. So much respect for those guys. And I love that kind of work. The kind of, not the spy work where you go up. I wouldn't want to do the spy work where you're, hey, how you doing? Kind of the schmoozy spy work. I like the analysis spy work. I like getting into details and looking for patterns and things. Love that stuff. Yeah, I'm a little old for it now. I wish I'd gone. Long story, but what do you do? I've had a good life, but there are some jobs I wish I went into. Intelligence analyst, I so wanted to go. Yeah, but what do you do? Hey, if they want to hire somebody my age, I'm still around. Yeah, no. I'm sure it would drive me crazy now. I'm old enough, Sophie. I'm old enough to get the senior discount at the store today. I'm not proud. I was like, you know what? 5% off my groceries. It was $150 worth of groceries. I said, go ahead, do it. What do you do? Anyway, what else we got, guys? What else we got? I do think it's funny when people do that, though. It's like, CIA. Yeah, I wish. Thank you, Gleagle. I'm Greek, so fortunately we age slowly. Not as well as my black friends. They don't age at all. But at least the Greeks are pretty good. Thank you, guys. What else we got, guys? What else? Yeah, CIA has a checkered past. But nonetheless, I still think they're a good agency in terms of today. Okay, we got you guys here. What else, guys? What else we got? We got time. Well, any questions, guys? Otherwise, I'll end it early and we can just go over to Discord and hang out a bit, because we do go to the Discord occasionally after the show. Have we overestimated the North Korean military? who knows? I mean, that's the risk of overestimating. You don't know if you're overestimating when you overestimate, right? Special Agent Sasha, no kidding. 6 Evo, is there anything that you've been worrying about? I mean, just like everybody else, I'm worried about the counteroffensive, I'm worried about the counteroffensive. I'm worried about us staying with Ukraine for the long term. Actually, I will say this, by the way. I do think that next week, Biden will probably approve the ATACMS missiles for Ukraine, because typically when you have heads of state meet, they usually want to announce something big. And especially something like this with Zelensky, you would want to announce something like that. Meaning you'd want to announce something big. So the fact that Biden is meeting with Zelensky next week makes me think he's going to announce the ATACMS. Also, good time to do it anyway, because Zelensky's in Washington, so there will be a lot of bright stories about him and, a lot of goodwill and principle, all this kind of stuff. So, the North Korean ammunition, some people don't think it's going to be so good. They think it might be from the 1960s. And they're not convinced how good it is. It's a match for the Russian systems, but it's not clear if it's any good. No, it's good question. I just kept reading 1960s, which is crazy. Craig is saying, regarding the Royal Air Force and the Russian fighter jets, perhaps the UK and NATO didn't want to broadcast their missile disarming technology. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to sort of figure out, what the Brits know that the Russians don't know, that the Russians would know if they went public over the incident, right? I mean, the Russians know their missile didn't hit. I mean, the Brits didn't need to say we jammed it. They can say the Russians fired, it didn't hit, and their second missile dropped, right? Possibly because they're incompetent, right? Max Blumenthal, I don't know what's up with Max. I knew Max 20 years ago. Smart, nice, interesting, fascinating, interesting guy. And he's turned into one of the Putin nuts. I really don't get it. I don't get it. Yeah. He's like one of the Putin defender types now. And Ukraine haters. It's really, I think there is, look, the internet has empowered the crazies, and it's done this from the beginning, going back 30 years now. I wrote about this for The Economist. I'm trying to remember. I think I wrote this aspect of it, but that basically I did write this. I wrote about extremism online, but back in like the year 2000 or so. And one of my points of the article was that before the internet, the crazies couldn't communicate. How are they going to find fellow crazies? Go to the crazy meeting in town, right? I mean, you had to go, hey, Rick in the U.S. Navy, good to see you. You had to go, thank you, Cheryl. You know what I mean? Like, if you're a crazy conspiracy theorist, where do you find other people like yourself before the internet, right? There's nowhere. Whereas with the internet, all of a sudden you start having communications. You start finding people. You start Googling and finding other crazies. So all of a sudden you start empowering like the pro-Putin types, for example. You start empowering them because they start to find each other. They start to set up news services with their crazy pro-Putin propaganda. And you find enough like-minded crazy people out there who are willing to pay you for it. So all of a sudden, it becomes this self-fulfilling industry, and I don't know how you stop it. I don't think you can stop it in a democracy. But I think there's a lot of, unfortunately, there's a small percentage of crazy people back out there, and unfortunately, they found each other. It's funny because Max was a really smart, good guy 20 years ago when I knew him. And he's gone crazy. It's really sad. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, Greenwald's the same way. Honestly, some people, it depends who. Like, there's some members of Congress who I think are just evil. They just, not even evil. Some of them are evil. Some of the Putin supporters, the Ukraine haters, some of them are evil. Some of them just want the money and the power, so they don't care. If they think the money and the power in their party is going to be hating Ukraine and being with Trump, that's what they'll do. There's a wonderful article today in the Atlantic. I'm already forgetting now about Mitt Romney. I think it's in the Atlantic. Yes, guys, somebody correct me. Thank you, Scott, for the glasses. Let me look and see really quick. It was in wonderful article, but by McKay Coppins, who just wrote a book about Mitt Romney. And he wrote a piece I don't think did I tweet it? I thought I did. I tweeted it, but no, I'm not seeing it. He wrote The Atlantic. Thank you. This wonderful piece about Mitt Romney, U.S. Senator, Republican, and just go read it. It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. Excellent piece. Ran for president back in 2012 against Obama. Just very interesting. In any case, great article, long article, but great article. Cliff is saying, as the war drags on, couldn't a rogue unit under command by the Kremlin explode a nuclear bomb and Putin denies responsibility? Yeah, I mean, the question becomes how easy it is to do a couple different things. Putin could order them to blow off the nuke. Thank you, Jonathan. I mean, that's certainly possible, right? But how do you do it in a way that the U.S. doesn't know, right? I mean, that the U.S. doesn't have, incontrovertible proof that it was the Russians, right? I mean, that's what gets weird. Now, the other thing is, what benefit is there for Putin to blow up a nuke and then say, oh my God, I didn't know, right? Either it was somebody else or it was a rogue unit or whatever, right? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, what's the benefit for Putin though? So he blew up a nuke in Paris or something and then says, oops. There's no way Paris may not turn around and nuke Moscow, but I think Russia's in serious trouble if that happens. I mean, even if it's a mistake and that happens, I think NATO then turns and says, that's it. That's it. Right? The war is over. You're pulling out. Thank you, Mackenzie. Either we are going to war with you over this, or you're pulling out of Ukraine, and you're going to be doing a lot more in terms of reining in your nuclear weapons and everything else, I think. But exactly, Andy's saying nuclear weapons are tracked 24/7. Yeah, I just have a hard time believing you'd be able to pull it off. I did a podcast before, but it did okay. It didn't do well enough. Too tiring to do. I kind of prefer this. I don't know why. The speaking is more fun. What else? What Mitt Romney? Yeah. So the article is called "What Mitt Romney Saw in the Senate." Very good article in The Atlantic. At least when I was reading it, you didn't have to pay the article when I pulled it up. I did see the article about the 86-year-old or 88-year-old Secret Service agent and the magic bullet. There was a Secret Service agent who was one of Kennedy's agents, JFK, John F. Kennedy Jr.'s, or John F. Kennedy, who was literally standing on the sides of the car when Kennedy got shot in Dallas back in 1963. And he just did an interview basically telling more, because he's never done an interview outside of with the police. The only thing is the thing that's a little weird is some of what he's saying now contradicts what he even told the Warren Commission or the police or whoever it was back then. So you're 88, it's been 60 years. Your story is not, you changed your story a little bit. I don't know. I did not get to the part where I saw exactly what he was saying differently. And your memories do change over time. Exactly. Yeah. Good question. I don't know. Give Me Food. Give Me Food is asking, can ICBMs be hacked and redirected with electronic warfare? Or can they only be shot down? Well, shooting them down is not easy at all. So only shooting them down isn't not at all clear if you can shoot them down at all. But I don't know if there's any serious threat of being able to hack a nuke. Then again, I mean, okay, I hope they've been hardened against it, but then again, they are technology, right? Technology can be hacked in principle. Thank you, Velika. Right? Ned Smith says you could possibly hack one, but you wouldn't have time. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I just feel like nothing's impossible, and let's face it, the way technology is going and hacking and stuff, best case scenario for the war, in your opinion, best case scenario is that Ukraine slowly is able to strangle the Russian occupation, that they're able to especially strangle Crimea and Kherson in the south. They're able to get close enough to the coast that they're able to, I'll show you, that we've got, so the question was best case scenario for the war. So the Russians occupy all of this, okay? Best case scenario, Ukraine's able to get close enough to the sea that they're able to basically cut the occupation in half. They can do this by either getting all the way to the sea or getting close enough that their weapons are able to hit the road going down here. And this is a huge supply road for the Russian troops. If they can cut this in half, you've now got both sides can't help each other. So this side can only get logistical support. In other words, weapons, food, ammunition, fuel. They can only get it from Russia over here. This side, Kherson and Crimea, can only get it from Russia across the Kerch Bridge and maybe using ferries, but good luck, the Ukrainians will attack the ferries, right? So probably the Kerch Bridge. Well, once the Ukrainians are able to cut this in half, I think they're going to blow up that bridge with everything they've got. And that bridge is going to take a long time to get fixed. And then you've got Crimea and Kherson that are now being strangled. And then things start to get interesting. But I feel like that's not the best case scenario of how the war ends, but that's sort of the best case scenario of the near term. And then Russia starts, it's sort of it is a war of attrition, but Russia is losing basically more and more. They start losing more land. Their troops they start to have morale problems with their troops, I mean, these wars are not necessarily quick things, And unfortunately, in the West, we play this game where, it's been a year and a half. Oh, my God. Or I love the counteroffensive is going on for 4 months. Oh, my God. It's like, guys, how long? I mean, wars take time, unless you're going to nuke everybody. It takes a little bit of time. Right. A Russian civil war. Maybe. Oh, that's right. Scotty's weighing in from Australia, home of tactical cardboard. Exactly. Australia, the home of the cardboard and rubber band drones that the Ukrainians used. I'm trying to remember. Those were the ones that the Ukrainians used, I believe, the Australian cardboard drones against the town of Pskov, which is in like northwestern Russia, right next to Estonia. Right. Thank you, Sirem. Right next to Estonia. And they blew up a bunch of planes. Good deal. But very funny that it was cardboard drones. Cliff says, so once ICBM nuclears are launched, you can't intercept. I had done some reading on this a year ago. And what I read was you are most likely to take a ICBM, intercontinental ballistic missile. Those are the nuclear missiles that can go like all the way, halfway around the planet, right? That you're most likely to take it out at launch. Thank you, Tired Rabbit. That you're most likely going to take it out at launch. Once it's in the air, good luck. Once it's coming in for a landing to blow up, good luck. So, and even with a launch, good luck with that too. The silos are hardened, so they're not easy to nuke a silo as well, that basically the missile's stored in the ground. Very difficult. Yeah. That's why you have subs. Exactly. Jeff is saying that's why they have subs, because if in fact you can hit the missile possibly coming out of the ground, good luck hitting a missile coming out of a sub. Subs hide and they're very difficult to find, which is good in a way, because in a good way. Thank you, Courtney, because we have subs, because the Brits and the French have subs as well with nuclear weapons on them, it makes it next to impossible. Thank you, Kanowski. It makes it next to impossible for the Russians to dare launch a nuclear war against us, because we'd fight back. Thank you, your mommy. Appreciate that. We would nuke them back, and they would not like that. So it stops them from nuking us first. What else, guys? Anything else? Otherwise, like I said, we'll go to Discord shortly as well. Thank you, your mommy, for the coral. I like that one. But we can go to Discord in a second and hang out there for a little bit too, and then I'll make a little. Any comments to calm down anxiety? Not really, though. I follow a really good guy on TikTok. Are you on TikTok? I don't remember. If you're on TikTok, there is a wonderful guy. I consider him a TikTok friend. Never met him in person. Let me find this. And he does these quick 1 and 3 minute calming talks that are just bizarrely calming. I mean, it's really wild. Hang on, I'm going to find this. It kind of blows my mind. Like, you do what he says, and all of a sudden you're like, and it just calms you down. Hang on, I'm going to find this. He may have been one of the first people I followed. Oh wait, I know where to find this. Hang on, it's in my Michael Gallion. So it's Michael Gallion. His screen name is Coach Michael and then the number 1. So a 1 like this. So Coach Michael and a 1. And he's excellent. Sorry, somebody's asking, how do we calm down with all this news? This is him. He's absolutely amazing. And his shows, he's got about the same number of followers I do. And his just, it's just, I don't know how he pronounced it. I say Galleon is how I would say it. Maybe it's Gallon. It's Galleon, Glyon. But he's just amazing. Absolutely amazing. If you subscribe on TikTok, you cannot join the private auction because TikTok has never fixed the problem linking TikTok to Discord. There's a problem and they know it and they've been trying to fix it, but they've not been successful. For the private auction, you've got to either sign up on Discord itself as a, thank you, Super Hornet, as a VIP auction, I should say, as a VIP member on Discord itself, a monthly subscriber. You can do it via YouTube. You can do it via Ko-fi, which you can find in the link in my profile. You can do it via Twitch, but you've got to use one of those services to do it because unfortunately TikTok, the link is broken and they know it and they've been trying to fix it, but TikTok just still doesn't work with Discord. And like I said, they're trying. I actually have to reach out to them again. But yes, if you're on TikTok, go check it out. Craig says you missed his second super chat. It's entirely possible. Let me see here. Thank you, Bluey. Oh, hang on. Oh, I didn't see it, Craig. Yeah, you know what? I must have clicked by it. Do you think the Russian accidents are starting to add up a little too much? It depends which accidents you mean, right? I mean, do you mean like people falling out windows? Which accidents are you talking about? Oh, here you go. Yeah, I'm not sure which accidents you mean, though. Tell me. Dimmi, as we say in Italian. I will wait for you to reply. Obviously, you don't have to pay for it. Just explain. The Wagner troops, a lot of them are still in Africa. And the ones that were in Ukraine left. And the ones that were in Belarus, there were probably 4,000 or 5,000 in Belarus. Who the hell knows what's happening to them? So I still think Putin's going to try to kill anybody who was in the rebellion, knowing Putin, it's too dangerous otherwise. But yeah, let's see what Romanian drones. So kind of the near misses. Okay. Craig is saying like in Romania, the Russian drones hitting Romanian territory, which was an accident. Almost blowing up a plane of British troops. I mean, I guess here's the thing. I think each one is legitimately an accident, right? I mean, the idiot Russian did probably accidentally fire it because he thought he was given the order to fire at the British troops. The Russian drones, hard to say. It's possible Putin said, go and land some drones in Romania, stir things up. I mean, from Putin's perspective, there's an argument to be made from Putin's perspective. Maybe he'd like to blow up a plane of British troops and say, well, we didn't do it on purpose, but this is what happens. This is what happens when you stick your nose where it shouldn't be, Britain, right? I mean, from Putin's perspective, he's hoping that it freaks people like Elon Musk and everybody else. It would freak Biden. It would freak Scholz and Macron into thinking, oh my God, we're almost going to war with them. We've got to have peace talks or something, right? I mean, there's a risk that Putin kind of gets his way with this stuff, I mean, that he basically is able to convince people in the West, oh, this is just too dangerous, Yeah, I know Putin personally. He's my godfather. Sorry, weird comment from someone. I know the UK people don't freak, but nonetheless, trying to freak the Americans, trying to freak Biden, right? You know what I mean? The odds, I mean, I will say, Serum asks, what are the odds that the Ukraine Southern Offensive is successful? A defense intelligence senior guy from U.S. Defense Intelligence said that, I don't think I did, said that he thought there was a 40 to 50% chance that the Ukrainian counteroffensive would be successful. Basically 50-50. That's, it's not bad. It's not enough, but it's also not bad. It's right. It's not good. 50-50, equal chance that it works or it doesn't work. So, I mean, but I don't know, again, is that good or bad? You know what I mean? Then again, knowing the Ukrainians, they tend to be crafty. They tend to overachieve, right? So if there's 50-50 odds, the Ukrainians at least would lean the other way, right? I mean, they would hopefully have they would be better at achieving it than we would expect. So we would hopefully underestimate them a little, right? Ukraine is reportedly putting the cluster munitions to good use. That's what we've been reading. Yep. There was some article in the New York Times recently about that. I don't remember the details, but they were saying that it's been working, which is good. Star Shield, no, nothing about Elon and his craziness. The summit. I mean, they had their summit. They agreed to stuff privately. Probably they're not telling us, of course, because it's illegal. Putin isn't allowed to buy weapons from North Korea. It's against the UN violation of the UN agreements or the UN resolution or whatever. But Putin doesn't care. All right, guys. Oh, who was nuclear disarmament? I thought you were talking about me for a second there. I was going to say I did actually, back when I was in the U.S. Senate. Hated the issue though, boring as hell. Surprisingly, you'd think nuclear disarmament would be a cool issue. Boring. Yes, do not donate to me in the super chat because it's confusing. I mean, for Ruby, you want to donate straight away to the. All right, guys, let me do a recap. Exactly, I'm doing a recap, and then we're going to go to Discord for a little bit, and then we are done for the evening. Maybe I'll heat up some rice because I made some fish. It is day 568 of Putin's 3-day special military operation. Thank you, Mundashi. Ukraine destroyed a Russian S-400 Triumph surface-to-air missile complex in Crimea. This is considered a big deal. President Biden is expected to meet with Zelensky at the White House next week. Zelensky will go on to also meet members of Congress. I suspect Biden will announce the ATACMS missiles for Ukraine next week when he's at the White House. Just my hunch, I think he will. BBC story regarding an attack on British surveillance plane last September. A Russian pilot tried to blow up a British surveillance plane with 30 crew members on board, 30 British military folks, and just a total mess of a story. And the Russians are extremely lucky that their military sucks so badly that they were unable to blow up the British plane, but it could have been a big deal. Counteroffensive news, some success near Bakhmut. There were some early reports that the town of Andriivka, thank you, JRD, had fallen to the Ukrainians, but that has not happened yet. Ukrainian pilots have successfully tested Swedish Gripen fighters, which is good news. We are still waiting for the Swedes to announce whether they will be providing the fighters to Ukraine. Putin is worried about mobilization talk and has warned the media in Russia not to talk about mobilization rumors. And finally, Kim Jong-un, this was via Sky News, via a Russian paper, Kim Jong-un, the North Korean dictator, when he was in Russia, had basically his staff refused to use the chair he was supposed to use when he was sitting with Putin, brought another chair in, and then cleaned it for like 10 minutes, cleaned the floor around it. Basically, they were afraid of somebody poisoning Kim, which is kind of interesting. I mean, it's funny. We make fun of it, but absolutely positively, somebody would love to poison Kim. So, and he did poison his half-brother, remember? So wouldn't be the craziest thing to do. All right, guys. I am going to call it quits. Let's go over to the Discord for a little bit. It's discord.aravosis.com. And once you get there, you've got to click the I agree to the terms and all that stuff to verify yourself. And then you will see in the upper left, John's after party. We will be at the after party. So go there and join us. Otherwise, join right now. Thank you. Otherwise, look for me tomorrow, Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern. And remember, Saturday morning, I forgot to mention, Saturday morning, we will be doing our typical Saturday coffee talk, 11 a.m. Eastern time US, where I hang out with the folks who are the monthly subscribers. The monthly TikTok subscribers can join, the paid subscribers can join me just on TikTok at 11 a.m. Eastern. The monthly Discord, YouTube, Ko-fi, Twitch, all of you guys can join us on the Discord. You will have access by linking. Once you link your Discord account to those accounts, you will have access on Discord. Thank you, Makob. And otherwise, see you guys tomorrow night. But otherwise, go to Discord. I'll go to Discord right now. Discord.aravosis.com. All right. Okay, guys. Patreon, I can't because Patreon's evil. Patreon made me delink everything because Patreon doesn't like that we help Ukraine. So they freaked out at me. Yeah. So I'm allowed to have Patreon up to support my work overall, which I do to support my journalism, but I'm not allowed to link my Patreon to my Discord because, as I said, Patreon is some liberal shill piece of garbage. Really, don't even get me starting about them. All right. Good night, guys. See you over at Discord. Oh, try again, Susan. Not sure why.